Good morning. Hello, Monday, February 10th. This is Steve-O C's TikTok Live every day at 11 a.m. Central Time. We work through the Course in Miracles, a workbook lesson per day, and then we read a corresponding section of the text every day at 11 a.m. Central Time, live read a corresponding section of the text every day at 11 a.m. Central Time, live on TikTok. After the big game, I hope you enjoyed yourself yesterday. TikTok. After the big game, I hope you enjoyed yourself yesterday and had some kinds of snacks and goodness at your parties and gatherings. I know I had a good time at the gathering I went to. So we now move on. So we're talking about the Course in Miracles. We're working with the Course in Miracles because we want to change our perception of the world. We want to change our experience in the world. We want our experience in the world to become more peaceful, more full. We want to accept salvation for ourselves and for our brothers and sisters. So I start every live with the reading of the introduction to the Course in Miracles, to the text, and it goes like this. This is a Course in Miracles. It is a required course. Only the time you take it is voluntary. Free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. It means only that you can elect what you want to take at a given time. The Course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. The opposite of love is fear, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. This course can therefore be summed up very simply in this way. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. So very encouraging words there. Nothing real can be threatened. You are real as you are created in the mind of God. Nothing real can be threatened. You are real as you are created in the mind of God. God is real. We are invulnerable. We've been talking about guilt the last few days. Guilt has been the subject of the workbook pages and also the text. And a couple days ago, it was stated that guilt is hell. And if guilt is hell, what is its opposite? The opposite of guilt is salvation. Freedom, happiness, joy, peace, and fulfillment. So we want to eliminate the guilt for specific acts. So we want to eliminate the guilt for specific acts, but that we believe, and I believe, through the activity of the ego, the sense of separation from my brothers and sisters, from each other, and from God, a sense of separation from nature. How else could we pollute the rivers? How else could we poison the air? Because we believe pollute the rivers. How else could we poison the air? Because we believe we're affected. We believe we can scientifically affect it. We believe we can scientifically manipulate ourselves, which of course is false. Manipulate ourselves, which of course is a false premise. It arises from the ego. So that's how the Course in Miracles sets it out. So that's what we're going with here. This is lesson 41 today. This is a great lesson, and there is here. This is lesson 41 today. This is a great lesson, and there is this lesson today. But lesson 41 says, God goes with me wherever I go. God goes with me wherever I go. I'm completely protected. I'm completely supported, maintained, and sustained. I really have nothing to worry about as long as I keep my mind focused within, on the Father, on my source. So today's idea will eventually overcome completely the sense of loneliness and abandonment all the separated ones experience. Depression is an inevitable consequence of separation. So are anxiety, worry, a deep sense of helplessness, misery, suffering, and intense fear of loss. Is anyone experiencing a deep sense of helplessness, seeing what's going on in the news right now? A deep sense of helplessness. I can't do anything about it. Seems as though I can't do anything about it. Seems as though all this stuff. Sense of helplessness. I can't do anything about it. Seems as though I can't do anything about it. Seems as though all this stuff has been going on. Helplessness, okay, and all the misery, suffering, and sense of loss that goes along with it. So everything that's said in the Course in Miracles, of course, can be applied directly to our experience and should be applied directly to our experience, as it notes continually in each workbook lesson. It says the separated ones have invented many cures, quote unquote, for what they believe to be the, quote unquote, ills of the world. But the one thing they do not do is question the reality of the problem. Yet its effects cannot be cured because the problem is not real. It is unreal. Nothing unreal exists, as we just read in the introduction. Nothing unreal exists. Therefore, the effects of the ills of the world and the source of the ills of the world cannot be cured because the problem is not real. And the source of the ills of the world cannot be cured because the problem is not real, says. You don't hear that too often out of the mouths of our teachers or out of any other text, really. I'm sure you do, but not too often. And thanks for stopping by. Everybody, anyone who's here, you can hit the like button, hit the screen, tap the screen like this. It'll put the likes up there for us, and this live will then be just more widely distributed. Okay, it helps with the algorithm with this. Also, if you have not followed this channel, please follow this channel. That also helps. And if you feel so inclined, you can follow this channel. That also helps. And if you feel so inclined, you can send a couple diamonds. Is I'll take those contributions. Most of them are, small contributions, 5 cents at a time or something like that. And what I'll do is I'll take those contributions and share them with other channels that also do lives along the same sort of lines. Okay, so participate in this, and that'll help us distribute this and strengthen these types of subjects on TikTok. So the idea for today has the power to end all this foolishness forever. And foolishness it is, despite the serious and tragic forms it may take. Deep within you is everything that is perfect, ready to radiate through you and out into the world. It will cure all sorrow and pain and fear and loss, because it will heal the mind that thought these things were real and suffered out of its allegiance to them. You can never be deprived of your perfect and suffered out of its allegiance to them. You can never be deprived of your perfect holiness everywhere you go. So, several lessons ago, we worked with the idea that my mind is part of God, I am very holy. Then we worked with the idea that my holiness envelops everything that I see. Then we worked holy. Then we worked with the idea that my holiness envelops everything that I see. Then we worked with the idea that cannot do. Now, the justification for all these statements. This is true because God goes with me everywhere I go. And the only question becomes, am I aware of with me everywhere I go? And the only question becomes, am I aware of that? Do I embodied that idea? Have I embodied that thought? You can never be alone. I'm a couple sentences. You can never be deprived of your perfect holiness because its source goes with you wherever you go. That's the lesson for today. You can never suffer because its source goes with you wherever you go. That's the lesson for today. You can never suffer because its source goes with you wherever you go. That's the lesson for today. You can never suffer because the source of all joy goes mine, because God goes with you wherever you go. We understand that you do not believe all this. How could you, when the truth is hidden deep within, do not believe all this? How could you, when the truth is hidden deep within, under a heavy cloud of insane thought? All you see. There's a key statement right there, which, the Course is very honest about these sorts. Yes, God is within you. Yes, all those things are true. There is peace and intelligence and perfection. But we don't understand, but we don't believe this. I don't believe it. You don't believe it. How could I, when the truth is hidden deep within, under a heavy cloud of insane thoughts? Where are the insane thoughts coming from? The insane thoughts are coming from the ego mind. A lot of people will tell you, the ego doesn't exist, the mind doesn't exist, a lot of that in Eastern philosophy. But you have to be aware of the subconscious mind, all those previous lives, okay, all that karma, for instance, and it has to be brought out of the darkness into the light. So Jung's shadow work, and it's very easy to say, I've done my shadow work, I cleaned all of that up. It's been my own personal experience that the deeper you go, you realize there's more and more, and finally it begins to expand out into the collective. So really the work never ends, because once I clear enough of the shadow from my own experience, once I understand that enough, I begin to see it outside of me, which means I'm still seeing it within me because it's all projected. So it's still in there, but it may not be triggering me anymore. It may not be holding me back anymore, but I can see it. So I'm saying possibly and probably that is the collective unconscious I'm starting to see, right? Although it's still within me because I am an individual arising from one mind, one source. Today we will make our first real attempt to get past this dark and heavy cloud and go through it to the light beyond. There will be only one long practice period today. In the morning, as soon as you get up, if possible, sit quietly for 3 to 5 minutes with your eyes closed. At the beginning of the practice period, repeat today's idea very slowly. God goes with me wherever I go. Then make no effort to think of anything. Try instead to get a sense of turning inward past all the idle thoughts of the world. Try to enter very deeply into your own mind, keeping it clear of any thoughts that might divert your attention. From time to time, repeat the idea if you find it helpful, but most of all, try to sink down and inward, away from the world and all the foolish thoughts of the world. You are trying to reach past all these things. You are trying to leave appearances and approach reality. It is quite possible to reach God. In fact, it is very easy because it is the most natural thing in the world. You might even say it is the only natural thing in the world. The way will open if you believe that it is possible. This exercise can bring very startling results, even the first time it is attempted, and sooner or later it is always successful. We will go into more detail about this kind of practice as we go along, but it will never fail completely, and instant success is possible. So we're closing our eyes and sinking down inward, it says, past all the foolish thoughts that our mind generally indulges in. That is the traffic of our usual state of being. However, it's saying the normal state of being is to sink down past that. You can also think of it as rising up above it. In any case, here it says sink down past it. All those obscuring thoughts, all that racket, all that chatter. Sometimes it's referred to as monkey mind, jumping from branch to branch, from here to there. And search for God, search for complete peace, search for complete silence. Throughout the day, use today's idea often. Repeat it very slowly, preferably with eyes closed. Think of what you are saying, what the words mean. Concentrate on the holiness that they imply about you, on the unfailing companionship that is yours, on the complete protection that surrounds you. Okay? Those three things, that's major, that's huge, that's very deep. Concentrate on the holiness, the thought implies, on the unfailing companionship. God is omnipresent. The presence is within me. The presence of God is within me. Okay? And the complete protection that surrounds me. I am invulnerable. I cannot be hurt, harmed, or endangered. Is the statement, is the ultimate meaning of this. Okay? Can I experience? Will I accept that I am invulnerable? Being the sinless Son of God, having no reason to be guilty for anything, because I'm living in a dream. We're playing a game. We're in a simulation. None of it is real. Nothing unreal exists. If it can fade away, if it disappears, if it's not permanent, it's not real. And so when we go to the text today, it'll be talking about the crucifixion and the body. And it will explicitly say that the body is not real because it passes away. Therefore, we should not be concerned about the body. Boom, you're right back to Sermon on the Mount. Take no thought for your body, for what you will put on, for what you will feed it. Okay? Because doesn't God feed the birds of the air? Right? You can indeed afford to laugh at fear thoughts, remembering that God goes with you wherever you go. So, as always, we're really starting to move here. We're really starting to hit some good stuff in the workbook and in the text, okay? We're starting to scrimmage a little bit, okay? We're starting to run some, not only doing drills here, we're really starting to scrimmage and get into some game situations, okay? I am invulnerable. God goes with me wherever I go. I am safe and secure. Okay? And not only that, things start going really good all the time. The first chapter says, if miracles aren't happening all the time, something is wrong. So we should constantly be receiving and giving miracles. That is, seeing people as sons of God and receiving the blessings ourselves that are indicative of a son. So today we'll go to chapter 6, section 1. And this is a deep one here. This is a big one here. It is called the message of the crucifixion. And basically, this is a big one here. It is called the message of the crucifixion. And basically, what it's fiction is not the one that we have been given in normal Christian discourse. Okay? So, the Holy Spirit, okay? So, the Holy Spirit, as we heard earlier in the text, the Holy Spirit, as we heard earlier in the text, okay, the Holy Spirit, the feminine aspect of God, reinterprets what we have made with our separated minds individually and collectively. We have made an entire world. What we have made, the Holy Spirit reinterprets it, purifies it, and brings us closer to God, closer in alignment with God, vibrationally one with God. Okay? So it says, for learning purposes, let us consider the crucifixion again. I did not dwell on it before because of the fearful connotations that you may associate with it. The only emphasis laid upon it so far has been that it was not a form of punishment. Okay? Either from the Roman side, or if you think about God punishing his son, which probably is what I used to think about when I was a little Catholic tyke running around the parochial school. You know, if God so loved his son that he gave his son to the world, then why did he allow him to get tortured and crucified? That is not a question you are allowed to ask at St. Thomas Aquinas School. No. You must not ask that question. Okay? So, the only emphasis laid upon it so far has been that it was not a form of punishment. Nothing, however, the only emphasis laid upon it so far has been that it was not a form of punishment. Nothing, however, can be explained. Interpretation of the crucifixion that is wholly devoid of fear. Interpretation of the crucifixion that is wholly devoid of fear, and therefore wholly devoid of fear, and therefore wholly understood. The crucifixion is nothing more than an extreme example. Its value, like the value of any teaching device, lies solely in the kind of learning it facilitates. It can be, and has been, misunderstood. This is only because the fearful are apt to perceive fearfully. I have told you that you. This is only because the fearful are apt to perceive fearfully. I have told you that you can always. Also told you that the crucifixion was the last useless journey the sonship need take, and that it represents release from. Crucifixion was the last useless journey the sonship need take, and that it represents release from fear. Only the resurrection before. The purpose of the crucifixion clarified then. The purpose of the crucifixion clarified then. Nevertheless, it has a definite contribution to make to your own life, and if you will consider it without fear, it will help you understand your own role as a teacher. Your own life, and if you will consider it without fear, it will help you understand your own role as a teacher. but I'm going to read all of it because this is really important. This is a reinterpretation of the crucifixion, and it's very important. You have probably reacted for years as if you were being crucified. This is a marked tendency of the separated who always refuse to consider what they have done to themselves. Projection means anger. Anger fosters assault. Assault promotes fear. The real meaning of the crucifixion lies, fosters assault. Assault promotes fear. The real meaning of the crucifixion lies in the apparent is italicized in the apparent is italicized in the text. Apparent intensity of the assault of some of the sons. Apparent intensity of the assault of some of the sons of God upon another, and must be fully understood as impossible. Otherwise, I cannot serve as a model for learning. Assault can ultimately be made only on the body. There is little doubt that one body can assault another and can even destroy it. Yet, if destruction itself is impossible, anything that is destructible cannot be real. Its destruction, therefore, does not justify anger. Okay. First big concept there, which is a tough one to swallow. Anything that we see with our eyes, including this body that passes away, is not permanent. Anything that we see with our eyes, including this body that passes away, is not permanent, is not. Therefore, its destruction is meaningless because it doesn't really even exist technically by definition. Again, if in a dream, if I, get in a car crash in a dream and die, when I wake up from sleeping, when I wake up in the morning, am I really dead? No, I am not. And so, as above, so below. As below, so above. When I wake up from this dream, the only thing that will remain is my consciousness. The body will not remain. And yet, there may be some sort of more subtle body or the perception of some sort of a body, but that's not what is real. The consciousness or the perception of some sort of a body, but that's not what is real. The consciousness is real. Yet if destruction itself is impossible, anything that is destructible cannot be real. Its destruction, therefore, does not justify anger. To the extent to which you believe that it does, you're accepting false premises and teaching them to others. The message of the crucifixion was intended to teach that it is not necessary to perceive any form of assault in persecution because it is not necessary to perceive any form of assault in persecution because you cannot be equating yourself with the destructible and are therefore be equating yourself with the destructible. That I, like you and you are like me, but our fundamental equality can be demonstrated only through joint decision. You are free to perceive yourself as persecuted if you choose. When you do choose to react that way, however, you might remember that I was persecuted as the world judges and did not share this evaluation for myself. And because I did not share it, I did not strengthen it. So, even though what was going on, Jesus here is saying, I did not perceive it that way. I knew through the grace of the Holy Spirit and through the teaching of the Holy Spirit that attacks on the body are not attacks at all. I therefore offered a different interpretation of attack and one which I want to share with you. If you will believe it, you will help me teach it. As I've said before, as you teach, if you will believe it, you will help me teach it. As I've said before, as you teach, so shall you learn. Teach persecution. This is not a lesson the Son of God should to teach if he is to realize his persecution. This is not a lesson the Son of God should to teach if he is to realize his own salvation, which is the truth in you, and realize that it cannot be, which is the truth in you, and realize that it cannot be assailed, are believing that it is assailable. Do not try to protect it yourself. You are not asked to be crucified, which was part of my own teaching contribution. You are merely asked to follow my example in the face of much less extreme temptations to misperceive and not to accept them as false justifications. In the face of much less extreme temptations to misperceive and not to accept them as false justifications for anger. No justification for the unjustifiable. Do not believe that there is, and do not. No justification for the unjustifiable. Do not believe that there is, and do not teach that. Remember always that what you believe you will teach. Believe with me, and we will become equal as teachers. Your resurrection, your reawakening. I am sorry when my brothers do not share my decision to hear only one voice, because it weakens them as teachers and as learners. Yet I know they cannot really betray themselves or me, and that it is still on them that I must build my church. There is no choice in this, because only you can be the foundation of God's church. I must build my church. There is no choice in this, because only you can be the foundation of God's church. A church holy. A church that does not inspire love has a hidden altar that is not serving the purpose for which God intended it. I elected for your mind to demonstrate that the most outrageous assault, as judged by the ego, does not matter. Deep, deep, deep. As the world judges these things, but not as God knows them, I was betrayed, abandoned, beaten, torn, and finally killed. It was clear that this was only because of the projection of abandoned, beaten, torn, and finally killed. It was clear that this was only because of the projection of others and had healed many. We are still equal as learners, although we do not need to have equal experiences. The Holy Spirit is glad when you can learn from mine and be reawakened by them. That is their only purpose. And that is the only way in which I can be perceived as the way, the truth, and the life. When you hear only one voice, you are never called on. I can be perceived as the way, the truth, and the life. When you hear only one voice, you are never called on to sacrifice. By being able to hear the Holy Spirit in others, you can learn. By being able to hear the Holy Spirit in others, you can learn from their experience and can gain from them without experiencing them directly yourself. That is because the Holy Spirit is one, and anyone who listens is inevitably led to demonstrate her way for all. You are not persecuted, nor was I. You are not asked to repeat my experiences, because the Holy Spirit, whom we share, makes this unnecessary. To use my experiences constructively, however, you still must follow my example in how to perceive them. My experiences constructively, however, you still must follow my example in how to perceive them. My brothers and you, my one lesson, which I must teach as I learned it, is that no perception that is out of accord with the judgment of the Holy Spirit can be justified. I undertook to show this was true in an extreme case, merely because it would serve as a good teaching aid to those whose temptation to give in to anger and assault would not be so extreme. I will with God that none of his sons should suffer. The crucifixion cannot be shared because it is the symbol of projection, but the resurrection is the symbol of sharing, because the reawakening of every son of God is necessary to enable the sonship to know its wholeness. The message of the crucifixion is perfectly clear. Teach only love, for that is what you are. If you interpret the crucifixion in any other way, you are using it as a weapon for assault rather than as the call for peace for which it was intended. The apostles assault rather than as the call for peace for which it was intended. The apostles often misunderstand it. Their own imperfect love made them vulnerable to projection, and out of their own fear they spoke of the wrath of God